Oggi Tanajan Amir molto gentilmente accettato il nostro invito a fare un discorso che sarà in inglese tradotto in italiano e penso alla fine anche un breve riassunto in lingua tale. E vi invitiamo ad assicurare che i vostri telefonini siano messi in silenzio e vi chiedo gentilmente di non scattare foto durante il discorso, può essere piuttosto distraente. C'è qualcuno che fa la richiesta formale? Mentre pensate di questo, dico in inglese. So today, Tanajan Emil has very kindly accepted our invitation to give a demo talk in English, which will be translated into Italian. And I think at the end there will be a short summary in Thai. Is it right? So that's great. So please, if you just make sure that your megaphones are switched off or are put into silent mode, and please don't take photographs during the demo talk. It can be quite distracting. Thank you. So is anybody able to make the formal request in Pali language? So are you going to look at it? All right. ก็ได้รับความเมตตาจากหลวงพ่อพระราชพุทธิวรคุณหรือหลวงพ่ออมโรเจ้าวาดวัดอมรวดีท่านจะแสดงธรรมเป็นภาษาอังกฤษภาคบ่ายนี้แล้วก็จะมีแปลเป็นภาษาอิตาเลียนส่วนภาษาไทยท่านอาจารย์เกวลีเจ้าวาดวัดป่านานาชาติก็จะสรุปข้อธรรมให้พวกเราได้เข้าใจในเนื้อหาในข้อธรรมที่หลวงพ่ออมโรหรือราชพุทธิวรคุณแสดงธรรมขอให้ทุกท่านได้เคารพในธรรมโดยการปิดเสียงสัญญาณก็คือโทรศัพท์แล้วก็ขออย่าได้ถ่ายรูปในขณะที่ฟังธรรมเพราะจะเกิดการรบกวนผู้ฟังและก็ผู้แสดงขอโอกาสอาราธนานิมนต์ Chalakadipati Sahampati Patanjali Harati Varamaya Chayata Satida Sata Parajaka Jatika Lansetu Dhamma Yukam Pinam Pajam Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Well, first of all, I'd like to offer my respects to the senior Sangha members. Many of the community have gathered from Thailand and all around the world. So I offer my respects and gratitude for this opportunity to be amongst this group and to offer some reflections this afternoon.
Prima di tutto vorrei ringraziare i monaci anziani qui presenti, venuti dalla Thailandia, e i monaci anziani che hanno contribuito a fare questo evento per tutti noi.
In the last day and a half, we've heard quite a number of Dhamma teachings and reflections on awakened awareness, on loving kindness, on the foundations of mindfulness, and many other themes. But it occurred to me that it might also be useful to mention why we are all gathered for these 3 days here in Santa Gitarama. What's the purpose of us all coming together at this time?
Negli giorni passati ho sentito diversi insegnamenti sui fattori del risveglio, sulla benevolenza, sulla presenza mentale, sui fattori della presenza mentale, però forse è anche opportuno dire alcune parole sul motivo per cui siamo qui tutti noi raccolti a Santa Citarama.
Some of you will have read the announcements and taken in all the details, but I know how it is with us as human beings reading notices. Often the notices they are for the other people, and so that we might not have taken in the detail of what is the purpose of this these ceremonies for establishing a Sima boundary, and how does that relate to monastic life and spiritual training and the benefit of all of our lives.
È probabile che abbiamo letto le informazioni su questi eventi, poi come spesso accade nelle nostre vite ci siamo dimenticati di quello che abbiamo letto, abbiamo lasciato le note per quello che sarebbe venuto dopo, e ora però sarebbe opportuno capire che cosa significa stabilire una sima, capire perché siamo riuniti oggi qua.
In our Buddhist tradition and according to our community laws, our standards, then for certain legal acts, formal procedures of the monastic community, they have to take place within a defined boundary, a templum, you would say in Latin, a defined area. And that area is called a sima.
Per quanto riguarda la nostra comunità, la nostra tradizione, la nostra disciplina monastica, ci sono atti formali, ufficiali del Sangha che devono essere condotti all'interno di un perimetro che è chiamato Sima.
So it's not quite the same as you have in Christian tradition of consecrating a church or a cathedral or a graveyard, but rather it is more to do with our Sangha laws, having an area
where formal Sangha agreements and acts can be carried out. And most commonly, this is the ceremonies of ordination, the upasampada, the full ordination and novice ordinations for our monastic community.
A differenza di una tradizione cristiana, non è un luogo che che definiamo consacrato, ma è un'area definita dalla nostra disciplina monastica, dai nostri regolamenti, entro cui c'è un accordo da parte della comunità dove svolgere gli atti ufficiali, come ad esempio il più importante è quello delle ordinazioni dei monaci e dei novizi.
So without a sima boundary, the monks and nuns can't get born. So this is, sima is like our maternity ward.
E senza questi confini stabiliti dalla sima non possono nascere monaci o monache, perché è dentro questi confini che possono essere ordinati. Potremmo dire quindi che è il reparto maternità monastico.
So this very beautiful and fine building was started a number of years ago. The last time I was here at Santajitarama was for an Asian New Year, Songkran Festival, and we were allowed to use this top chamber, but the rest of the building was still a building site. And since that time, then there have been a number of ordination ceremonies here, and that was, just to be technical about it, for those ceremonies, a temporary sima was established and then taken away at the end of the ceremony. And what we're doing now is creating a permanent sima. Just checking the facts.
Allora, ci sono voluti alcuni anni per costruire questo edificio. Ero qui in occasione di un nuovo anno del sud-est asiatico alcuni anni fa. Tenemmo la prima cerimonia qui dentro al tempio, ma c'era solamente questa sala, tutto il resto era ancora in costruzione. Da quel giorno altre cerimonie che comportano appunto un atto ufficiale del Sangha sono state compiuti, sono state fatte quindi delle ordinazioni, però specifichiamo che sono state fatte all'interno di un perimetro, di un confine che era stabilito in maniera temporanea. Invece quello che stiamo facendo in questi giorni è creare una sima in modo durevole, permanente, e poi dopo Achan Amaro si è voltato verso gli altri monaci anziani per verificare la correttezza, ironicamente, di quello che ha detto.
Establishing a permanent sima of this kind is a very significant moment in the life of a monastery. It signifies the putting down of deep, deep roots and the strong and healthy establishment of a place, a monastery, and so that it's extremely significant. And this is one of the reasons why so many Sangha members have come from all around the world, from Australia, from Thailand, from the many European countries, to gather together to mark this significant moment in the development of the life of this monastery.
Fondare una sima in maniera permanente ha un significato anche importante a livello simbolico, perché implica dare profondità al luogo, al monastero, alla vita monastica che vi si conduce, e conseguentemente è un passaggio importante. Per questo motivo che sono radunati qui monaci da tanti paesi, dall'Australia, dalla Thailandia, dall'Inghilterra, perché con quest'atto una ufficializzazione dello stesso monastero.
So, for example, Tanajan Kavali is the abbot of Wat Pah Nanachat, the international forest monastery in northeast Thailand. And last December, we had a ceremony to established the Sima boundary at the new temple building that he masterminded and constructed over the last few years. The monastery was established in 1975, but it took more than 45 years for the roots to go all the way down to establishing a beautiful temple and a Sima boundary where ordinations for monks can happen. And so it was a very inspiring and significant event in the life of Wat Parandanachat, our kind of home monastery for the Western Sangha, the disciples of Lumpur Cha.
Per farvi capire, a dicembre c'è stata un altro fondamenta della Sima a Wat Parandanachat, il monastero internazionale nel nord-est della Thailandia, dove è abate Thanachan Kevali. E il monastero non è certo nuovo, è stato fondato nel 1975, però ha preso tutto questo periodo di tempo perché si radicasse veramente in maniera sempre più profonda e si potesse reputare compiuto il monastero con questa bellissima cerimonia che è stata compiuta a Wat Parandanachat e che fondamentalmente è analoga a quella che terremo qui domani.
Of course, in Buddhism we recognize nothing is permanent, but the Sima boundaries are taken to be a very, very firm and lasting agreement. So yesterday we had a ceremony to wipe out any previous Simas that might have been established in the era of previous Buddhas, the Buddha Kassapa, the Buddha Konagamana, Kakusanda, way, way back into the ancient past, just in case there were monasteries here and old Simas were still lingering. We did a cleansing, wiping out the old Simas to clear the ground completely to establish this new Sima for this building at this time in this era.
Abbiamo usato questo termine permanente, ma forse saprete che non è il termine più usato nel buddismo, è un permanente inteso come duraturo, fisso, perché è un qualcosa che avrà un suo valore nel tempo e proseguirà, tant'è che nei giorni scorsi abbiamo compiuto un'altra cerimonia, quella in cui in qualche modo in cui si rimuove le potenziali precedenti Sima che potrebbero esserci state in questo territorio, in questo appartenente a ere passate dei precedenti Buddha, e talvolta appunto ci fossero state, noi le abbiamo cancellate in modo da riazzerare la situazione e poter permettere la creazione di un confine permanente, di un nuovo Sima.
Our great teacher Lumpur Cha used to say, ordination ceremonies are easy, but training monks and nuns is difficult.
Il nostro insegnante Ajahn Chah diceva ordinare le persone è facile, farle restare nell'abito è difficile.
As you would say in the lay world, the wedding is one thing, the marriage is another.
I think they understood. Comunque ha detto a livello mondano diremmo un conto è sposarsi, un conto è fare il marito e la moglie.
So it's very wonderful for me to come to Santa Chitarama, this monastery. It was first established in Setse Romano by Mario Tanavaro, who is he was the first abbot in 1990, so more than 30 years ago. Ajahn Chandapalo came along a little bit later. 3 years later, Ajahn Prichar, I was same thing. And so after these years and moving here to this new location, and Poggio Nativo, that's the right pronunciation, and seeing how beautifully, wonderfully things have developed. And those of you who come recently or haven't seen it develop, you may be assuming, oh, this is Santa Chitarama. It's always been like this. There's many buildings, beautiful gardens, so many people, all these people with shining faces and so much faith and good food, and it's always been this way. Maybe you think like that. It's always been here and it's always been like this. But I would say it takes a lot to develop a monastic community, a monastic residence, and it takes a lot to train the individual.
Il monastero Santa Citarama è stato fondato nel 1990 a Sezze, a Latina, da Tanavaro. Qualche anno dopo arrivò a Cianciandapalo, che poi dopo il Santa Citarama si è trasferito qui, dove attualmente appunto siamo. E magari qualcuno può dare per scontato che il Santa Citarama sia sempre stato così come lo vediamo ora, con tanta gente che sorride, bello, con buon cibo, ma no, ci sono voluti anni e anni di impegno per realizzare quello che è stato realizzato e tanto di più ci vuole per formare una comunità monastica.
When I first walked into Wat Paranganachat in 1978, then I kind of had the same impression. This monastery has always been here. When I went to Wat Nong Papong and met Luang Por Chah, then there's this feeling of these places have always been here. It's always been like this. Large groups of monks and lay people coming in to practice meditation, very dedicated, very committed, beautiful kutis, well-swept pathways through the forest, wells. And then it took me a few months after I had arrived there to realize, hey, what keeps us all together? Why is everybody here? Why do they stay? This didn't happen on its own.
Fu nel 78 quando giunsi a Wat Pananachat e anche lì ebbi il monastero in Thailandia per i monaci occidentali e anche lì ebbi questa analoga sensazione. È sempre stato così bello, così accogliente, con tanta gente che viene, devota, sorridente, ordinato. Poi dopo, con il passare del tempo, iniziai a rendermi conto, a farmi le domande com'è che siamo giunti a queste condizioni, com'è che è venuto a essere questo posto così com'è.
I began to realize, hey, this forest at Wat Paranganachat 5 years ago, this was just the burning ground, the forest outside of Bungwai village. 25 years ago, Wat Papong was just the forest outside of Bangkok village. Now there are these thriving communities and this great spiritual strength that is gathered here. What keeps it together? What's the force that holds everything together and makes us all live by such a strict discipline, to commit so much time to meditation, to live in such a simple and pure-hearted way, and to encourage the local villagers, the lay people, to come in to provide food every day and once a week, to come and stay up all night and then go home and look after the kids and work in the fields all day long. What is it that keeps this together? Why do we all stay? Why do we all do this?
Cos'è? Qual è la forza che permette di fare tutto questo? Quando ero lì a Wat Pananachat iniziai a capire che pochi anni prima non esisteva Wat Pananachat, esisteva solamente la foresta accanto al villaggio Bungwai. Così la stessa cosa per Wat Papong, erano solamente foreste. Qual è la motivazione che spinge le persone a partecipare a questa esperienza comunitaria, un'esperienza che ha una disciplina rigorosa, ben definita, che richiede impegno? Cos'è che porta le persone dal villaggio al monastero per poi appunto offrire cibo, prendersi cura dei monaci e poi ritornare a lavorare perché hanno la loro vita e quindi una vita impegnata? Qual è? Che cos'è che unisce tutte queste cose?
It didn't take me long to figure out that it was because of Luang Por Chah. He's the big magnet, the spiritual magnet that was the center of everything that was the guide and the teacher and the inspiring presence. But particularly, and it's difficult to explain, even though he was right at the center, he was a great teacher, brilliant and inspiring, he didn't emphasize himself, but rather, even though he was very attractive as a personality, what he kept pointing to was his job was to create the environment for training. And he would, over and over again, to paraphrase, he would say, "Don't look at me, look at yourselves."
E quello che spingeva queste persone a vivere questa esperienza era ovvio, era Luang Por Chah, con la sua abilità carismatiche, con il suo magnetismo spirituale, ma dentro questo magnetismo spirituale c'era un'altra caratteristica, quella con cui Luang Por Chah non enfatizzava la sua persona in particolare, ma enfatizzava la comunità, il ruolo della comunità, con poi dopo quella frase famosa ricorrente per cui non guardare me, ma guarda te, guarda dentro di te.
So I feel that this is something that is very well manifested here at Santa Chitarama. It is a very fertile and rich environment for training, and that is why we see so many young men going forth as anagarikas, samaneras, as bhikkhus, many Italian, but also from other countries as well. And I feel this is a very good sign indeed that we don't just have the process of the ordination ceremony, but the marriage is going well.
E anche qui al Santa Citarama possiamo vedere dei segni di quello che abbiamo detto, con una comunità fiorente, una comunità in crescita, dove vi sono giovani monaci, molti dei quali anche italiani, quindi proprio del luogo, ma non solo. E potremmo dire che non solo c'è stato il matrimonio, ma il matrimonio sta anche andando bene fra lo sposo e la sposa.
So if I might have permission to acknowledge the qualities of Ajahn Chandapalo, Ajahn Pricha, is it okay with you? I feel that these two good monks over the last 30 years or so have given extraordinary amounts of energy in their own spirit, their own heart, their time, their everything to help this place to flourish. And I've known them for a long time. I knew Ajahn Chandapala when he was a layman and anagarika in England, early days of Chithurst Monastery. Ajahn Pricha, I knew him a little bit when he was a novice. He was attendant for Luang Por Chah when he was Nen Miao. 100 years ago. And also Mario Tanavaro, he and I, he became a novice before I did, and I became a bhikkhu before he did. So early years of Chithurst and Harnham Monastery in north of England, we shared a kuti and shared a room together for 4 years. 1 year we shared a kuti 3 meters by 3 meters. And a lot of that was his shrine. I can respectfully mention that, Mario. So I have known these good people for many, many years, and I see that they have very abundant spiritual qualities that I feel have informed this place in many and various good ways.
Chiedo il permesso a questo punto di ringraziare le persone che hanno permesso questa realizzazione, a Ajahn Chandapalo e a Ajahn Pricha, che conosco da tempo immemorabile. Ajahn Chandapalo era ancora un laico inglese che frequentava Chithurst, Ajahn Pricha era un novizio che faceva l'attendente ad Ajahn Chah, a Luang Por Chah, ed era chiamato Meo. E ovviamente anche Mario Tannavaro, con cui addirittura abbiamo condiviso un anno di vita monastica, condiviso proprio anche nella stessa cuti, nella stessa alloggio monastico, un 3x3, che già non è molto spazioso, ma molto di questo 3x3 era occupato dall'altare del Buddha.
Well, if I may speak of Ajahn Chandapala, I've always been impressed by his extraordinary patience and equanimity.
Quello che mi ha sempre impressionato di Ajahn Chandapala fin dall'inizio era la sua pazienza e la sua equanimità, la sua grossa pazienza e la sua grossa equanimità.
Some of you might know that he has had difficulty with his skin for many, many years. And for a long time at Amravati in the early years, his skin was so bad, there's so many itches and lesions that he had to have his skin bathed every day in this really rank-smelling natural remedy every day. And he was never complained, was patiently taking care of it, and was not, say, making it a problem, but was extraordinarily, adaptable to those circumstances. Who would want a horrible itching skin disease? But here it is, and he was very prepared to live with it, to work with it, and do whatever it took to deal with it, and so without ever complaining, as far as I'm aware. So I was very impressed, and I think that quality of patience, equanimity, and being able to accommodate all kinds of difficult circumstances is something that is a very helpful informing spirit for a monastery like this.
Pazienza, equanimità e la capacità di adattarsi alle circostanze, queste sono caratteristiche che ho sempre visto in Ajahn Chandapalo fin dai primi tempi. Come diversi di voi sapranno, Ajahn Chandapalo ha un problema alla pelle che dà forti pruriti, infiammazioni, e all'inizio della sua vita monastica era piuttosto rilevante, acceso questo problema. Doveva farsi impacchi e bagni quotidianamente con rimedi naturali. Per quanto ne so io, non si lamentava, viveva la situazione per quella che era, ed è per questo che lo ho elogiato, riferendomi a queste qualità, pazienza ed equanimità.
Ajahn Preacher, I might be a bit worried about what I'm going to say about him.
Ajahn Preacher potrebbe essere un po' preoccupato di quello che potrò dire, ma Ajahn Preacher ha scrollato la testa dicendo no.
I would say what we're experiencing here at Santajitarama over this weekend with more than 80 monks and novices, probably the count is about 90 or more by now, coming together because he has an extraordinary spirit of community. And there's a quality of bringing people together and helping people to get along with each other, to live harmoniously. So he's I would say, one who has put extraordinary effort and attention into helping people to come together. And that was a major theme of Luang Por Chah's teaching, and his way of life was to help people to come together, different Sangha members of different characters, different backgrounds, different circumstances, to come together, to work together, and to live harmoniously. So I feel Ajahn Preacher has that sense of inclusivity, bringing everyone together, is very well manifested this weekend, but also generally I feel that is something that is extraordinarily helpful in enabling a monastery to a spiritual community to thrive and to develop.
La qualità di Ajahn Preacher è in questo momento piuttosto evidente, che è quella di essere riuscito a portare qui tra gli 80 e 90 monaci, l'abilità quindi di essere inclusivo, di creare comunità, di fare comunità, che è una caratteristica che aveva anche Luang Por Chah e da cui Ajahn Preacher ha preso. non è certo da poco riuscire a coinvolgere un tale gruppo di monaci, un tale numero di monaci, però è appunto questa abilità di inclusività, di saper raccogliere, di saper chiamare a raccolta.
I'll leave you both alone now. Also, I thought too, considering how monasteries develop and the qualities that the Lord Buddha spoke about in terms of what enables us as human beings to flourish and say develop and live happily, peacefully, harmoniously with each other, doesn't just apply to monasteries, but applies to family life, the business world, the workplace. So also, considering this occasion, it also brings to mind what the Buddha called the saranya dhammas, or the causes of well-being, the causes of welfare. And so I thought to also mention these, not just because it's what helps a monastery to stick together, but also that people who are not monastics, you can take away into your home life and bear these qualities in mind, or bring these qualities to mind to see how they can be helpful to enable your own lives to be fulfilled and say to actualize the potential that we have in our human world.
Potremmo iniziare ora a domandarci quali sono le qualità che permettono di creare tutto questo in termini di aggregazione, di senso di benessere, di armonia, e qualità che non valgono solamente per il gruppo monastico, ma sono valide anche per tutti voi nella vostra vita ordinaria nel mondo laico. E ora cerchiamo di capire assieme quali sono le condizioni che sostengono questo senso di pienezza.
Ajahn Mahapanya asked me not to mention too many numbers, but there are 6 of these.
I can memorize this. Ho chiesto niente numeri che non li ricordo, e allora sono 6.
So the first 3 of the Saranya Dhammas, the Buddha advised as causes of concord and well-being, how we can get along most successfully as a group, is to sustain.
Oops. Dagli il microfono, farlo alto.
Okay, we're live again. Momentary death.
So really fresh.
Low battery?
Yeah. Allora, si sta parlando delle condizioni che garantiscono l'armonia, che garantiscono questo senso di benessere a livello collettivo. Mariro, take this one.
So to maintain in being thoughts, words, and actions of loving kindness. So having that intention to the way that we act in relationship to the rest of our family or people in the workplace, the way we speak, and also to the extent possible, the way we think, that to sustain the attitude of loving kindness. This is a cause of concord.
La causa di concordia è mantenere pensieri, parole e atti di benevolenza nei confronti delle persone con cui si convive. Ovviamente soprattutto la parte delle parole e delle azioni, per poi però anche coltivare gli appropriati pensieri di benevolenza.
The kind of people who gather for a Saturday afternoon in a Buddhist monastery, you're probably not too regularly engaged in physical violence, I would guess.
le persone che di solito vengono il sabato pomeriggio in un monastero suppongo che non siano particolarmente coinvolte nella violenza fisica.
But violence with our words and with our thoughts is a lot more common. And again, I'm not reading anybody's mind. If you were thinking, oh, how did he know? This is statistics, not psychic power.
Però già diventa più difficile quando si parla di non violenza in termini verbali e in termini di pensieri. E non vi preoccupate, non è che sto leggendo la vostra mente riconoscendo che avete dei pensieri quindi violenti, è statistica, funziona così.
So in the family, in the workplace, if there's some issue that comes up, or you're upset about something, or you see someone is behaving in an unskillful or a dishonest way, then rather than just immediately jumping in and criticizing someone or shouting or complaining, to take a moment of sati sampajanya, of mindfulness and full awareness, to consider, okay, what's the best way to communicate this? How can this be spoken about that will reach the other person and they will be able to receive it?
Nella quotidianità, quando ci sono momenti di frizione, iniziamo a praticare con Sati Sampajanya, con una chiara visione e comprensione, in modo tale da iniziare a riflettere su come possiamo al meglio rielaborare questa situazione.
This is not always easy, but as Lumpo Cha would advise us, even if you lose your temper, you get carried away, as soon as you realize I've got carried away, that's the place to establish mindfulness and to maybe apologize if you said something unskillful, or if you've been able to catch your words before you said anything too harmful or too hurtful to someone, to re-establish an attitude which is kindly and straightforward and has the well-being of the other person in mind. So the more that we can develop skillful speech, and speech which manifests genuine metta, loving kindness, then that has a very direct and positive effect on the family.
Verbale. Ricordiamoci che possiamo essere portati via dai tumulti interiori, ma nel momento stesso in cui ci rendiamo conto di essere stati trascinati via, quello è il momento di presenza mentale da cui si può riprendere, chiedendo scusa, formulando una frase in modo tale da riportare quel senso di benevolenza, di concordia, praticando quindi un retto modo di parlare all'interno dei nostri contesti familiari, ma anche nella vita di tutti i giorni, con le persone che incrociamo, nei momenti che guidiamo la macchina e viviamo queste esperienze di traffico che
So realize I'm English, so we're famous for being very restrained. And I'm in Italy, where the people are more expressive. So the way that we express loving kindness will be different in different countries.
Bisogna anche considerare che io sono inglese e siamo noti per non essere molto espressivi, mentre gli italiani per essere piuttosto espressivi, ed è quindi anche diverso il modo con cui possiamo esprimere questo senso, questa qualità della benevolenza.
When Ajahn Sumedho first came to Italy in something like 1985 or 86, then he said how his first impression was that Italians were always really angry with each other, and he was quite disturbed. I think Vincenzo Piga was taking him around, and
la prima volta che Luampo Sumedho venne in Italia nell'85-86 ebbe questa impressione che gli italiani sono sempre un po' arrabbiati. Vincenzo Piga, che ha contribuito a fondare il monastero, lo portava in giro e lui ritornò dal viaggio con questa impressione.
And Vincenzo explained, no, this is how we say good morning.
No, non ti preoccupare, questo è come ci diciamo buongiorno.
So that was a subject of many Dhamma talks when Luang Por got back to England.
Fu un argomento di diversi discorsi di Dhamma da parte di Luang Sumedho di ritorno dall'Italia.
In that era, in the 1970s, 1980s, in England, still people would hide behind newspapers on the train, be completely quiet with each other.
In quel periodo, a metà degli anni '80, ancora le persone in Inghilterra leggevano i giornali nei mezzi di trasporto per evitare di incrociare gli sguardi e di parlarsi.
So of the Saranya Dhammas, then the one maintaining thoughts of loving kindness towards others is a little more challenging because our thoughts are less under control than our actions and our speech.
Ancora più difficile è mantenere pensieri di benevolenza. Abbiamo trattato le azioni, abbiamo trattato le parole, ma ancora più coinvolgente la nostra pratica per quanto riguarda i pensieri.
The Buddha also said the mind is the leader, the forerunner of all things, and so the more that we can establish, that we can work to establish loving kindness in our thoughts, then that helps to set a skillful direction. So it's more difficult, but it's greatly beneficial if we can establish that attitude of loving kindness in our thoughts towards all other beings.
Nelle stesse parole del Buddha si riconosce che la mente è ciò che viene prima di tutto ed è fondando i pensieri sulla benevolenza che seguono poi quindi anche le parole e le azioni, ma è proprio sui pensieri che è la parte più difficile e complessa.
One day, many years ago, when somebody was asking Luang Por Sumedho about how to work with their parents because the parents were very unsympathetic towards their daughter's life as a Buddhist, and there was a lot of tension and difficulty in the family when she would go back to visit. And the advice that Luang Por Sumedho gave her at that time sticks in my mind to this day. He said, the kindest thing you can do for your parents is not to create them.
Is that true?
Not to create them.
Allora, mi ricordo, è ancora impressa nella mia mente una conversazione che ebbe Luang Por Sumedho con una ragazza che aveva dei problemi con i propri genitori perché i suoi genitori non accettavano il suo essere buddista. E Luang Por Sumedho le consigliò che il modo migliore di gestire questa difficoltà era nel non creare nella sua mente, i propri genitori.
So in a way, this is where the teachings on loving kindness meet together with the teachings on anatta, not self.
Qui è dove l'insegnamento sulla gentilezza amorevole incrocia l'insegnamento di anatta, il non sé.
When we have a conflict in our family between parents and children, or between partners, or between sisters and brothers, between parents and children, then we can often, if we're a good Buddhist, we can spend a lot of time trying to think, oh, well, what should I do? What should I say? How should I act? And we can work very hard trying to get it right, but in that process, we are busy creating self and other. And the more we create self and other, the more we create the causes of difficulty and more friction and alienation, separation.
Nelle nostre vite possono sorgere questi conflitti familiari fra marito e moglie, fra figli e genitori, fra figli e figli, e possiamo anche iniziare a a pensare qual è il modo migliore per dirimere questi conflitti, per ricreare quel senso di armonia e di concordia, ma nel fare così creiamo sempre un'idea di io e l'altro, ma se lavoriamo con anatta, con questa idea di non se viene a meno questa divisione.
It's a mysterious thing, but if we can let go of each other, not create each other, when we meet, we're able to say, have a genuine communion, a genuine connection. If I'm thinking about you and I'm carrying around my ideas about you, what I'm going to say to you, what you're going to say to me, when we meet, I don't meet you, I just meet my ideas about you. It's when we let go of each other, then when we meet, we exchange words or we're together, then there can be a freshness, an uncomplicated communion with a small c, not Christian communion, but small c communion.
Nel pensare a come rapportarsi agli altri, iniziamo a togliere l'aspetto spontaneo e fresco del rapporto. In realtà è un rapporto mentale quello che stiamo vivendo, un rapporto pensato, mentre andando al di là di questa divisione riacquistiamo questa freschezza, la possibilità di essere diretti e di stabilire questo senso di comunità, senza creare nella propria mente l'altro.
The other Saraniya Dhammas, the next one is to share what you have. And so this, the example that the Buddha gives for monastic life is to, even the contents of your alms bowl, to share the food that you have received with your fellow monastics in the family life, to make sure everyone gets a fair share. No one gets special favors. Everyone is treated equally. That is a very beautiful spirit to always make sure that it's fair shares for all.
Un'altra condizione che garantisce l'armonia è la condivisione. Condividere ciò che abbiamo in maniera uguale fra tutti. Nell'insegnamento si parla appunto di condividere anche il cibo che riceviamo nella nostra ciotola, fare attenzione che i nostri confratelli abbiano le stesse cose, possano avere le stesse cose senza preferenze, e tale atteggiamento è un atteggiamento che può essere riportato anche nella vostra vita familiare.
A very beautiful example in the monastic life, there's a photograph from many years ago of the Sangharaja, Somdanyana Sangwon, and his old friend Lumpur Tate. They had been young monks, they'd known each other for many, many years. So one is the Sangharaja, the most senior monk in Thailand, the other is a senior disciple of Lumpur Man, and they were, Somdanyana Sangwon had gone to visit Lumpur Tate in his, I think, a cave monastery where he lived in his last years, and you have Somdanyana Sangwon handing a kanom to Lumpur Tate, them sitting with their arms folded in front. So here, his two most senior, highly esteemed, revered monks, like, here, I've got a nice sweetie. Did you get one of these?
Kanom?
Kanom, a sweet.
Okay. Sweet. A tal proposito mi viene in mente questa fotografia che riprendeva il Sangharaja, che è il capo del gruppo monastico in Thailandia, con un discepolo anziano di Lumpur Man, Lumpur Tate, dove erano assieme in una grotta, la grotta dove viveva Lumpur Tate, e in questa foto si vedeva loro due che condividevano un dolciume, un qualcosa di dolce, sì, un dolciume.
So the last two of these 6 Saraniya Dhammas, the fifth one is to have a common agreement about behavior, so a common standard for what you do, how you live together. And so I understand that in families or in the workplace or on the street, it's not always easy to establish common agreements, but in monastic life, everyone keeping to a high standard of Vinaya discipline, this is a great source of harmony. In the home, having standards that the parents and the children all understand, the parents follow the same standard as the children. And again, everyone has the same agreements about how to behave, how to relate to each other. Then this is a source of great happiness and great peace. To the degree that can be established in the home, this is a wonderful thing, particularly if the parents are able to be a good example. When people come to the monastery, they complain that their children are misbehaving. Often the child will say, "But Mom, you do that." But why should I not take time off school when you're happy to take 3 days off work when you don't really have it? Or why should you stop me drinking alcohol when you're out every Friday night? So to establish a common standard, an agreed standard for the family and in the workplace, is a great source of peace and happiness for all of us, just as it is in the monastery, if everyone respects the same standard.
La quinta condizione per creare una fonte di benessere, armonia all'interno di una comunità è condividere degli standard comportamentali. All'interno della vita monastica cioè garantito dalla nostra disciplina, che appunto fa in modo che tutti noi concordiamo su questi che concordiamo e ci uniformiamo a questi standard comportamentali. Ovviamente è un po' più difficile nel mondo fuori del contesto monastico, dove diverse possono essere gli atteggiamenti delle persone. Però ritornando al tema della famiglia, non dobbiamo dimenticare che i figli generalmente prendono gli standard che hanno i genitori e questo che determina conseguentemente chi fissa gli standard, chi determina gli standard. Si sente occasionalmente parlare appunto di un genitore che può brontolare un proprio figlio e il figlio appunto risponde: ma l'hai fatto tu, non devi bere alcol, ma ti venerdì sera ti vedo alticcia, mamma. Ecco, conseguentemente all'interno della vita familiare fissare degli standard che uniformano i comportamenti della famiglia, e gli standard sono fissati dai genitori.
So the last one of these, and I'll finish with this. The words of the text say something like, "To sustain the insight that is noble and liberating." And people discuss, well, what insight is that? But it's generally understood to be the insight into anicca, the anicca sanya, to develop the perception of uncertainty. This is and what Lumpur Cha would call the gateway to wisdom. That is the more that everyone in a group can sustain that insight that all things are uncertain, the easier it is to get along with each other.
La sesta condizione è la visione profonda in ciò che garantisce in ciò che sostiene la liberazione. Si apre il dibattito su che cosa dovrebbe essere questa visione profonda e sulla percezione dell'impermanenza. Riflettendo sull'impermanenza, approfondendo questa percezione, si crea la condizione per avere questa visione profonda che conduce alla liberazione.
So this is not confined to being on a vipassana retreat, but every day on the street, in the workplace, in the office, in the hospital, in the school, with your family, in the kitchen, wherever we might be. Again, Luang Por Chah gave a very, very frequent and direct teachings on this. He would encourage the recognition of anicca, not that just things are impermanent or changing, but the way that change is felt in the heart is we're not sure what's going to happen next. It's it's not a sure thing. And the more that we can remember that not sureness, don't know how you'd say that in Italian,
non certo.
Then that is a marvelous way of creating space in our lives and bringing blessings to all of us.
Questo non è un ritiro di Vipassana, ma è un invito a portare questa percezione di anicca, dell'impermanenza, nella nostra vita quotidiana, nei nostri rapporti con le altre persone, figli, genitori, che siamo sulla strada, che siamo in cucina, e sempre ricordando la figura di Ajahn Chah, la sua impostazione sulla percezione di anicca, che si tramutava in questa frase in Thai di Mai Ne, che significa appunto non è certo, non è sicuro, perché riflettendo in questo modo si apre lo spazio per raggiungere la visione profonda che è liberatoria.
So if you're cooking something and you taste it, you go, oh yes, this is perfect, delicious. If you remember, Maineh, it's not a sure thing. Then when you offer it up to the other family members and they go, oh, is it supposed to taste like this? Then you, okay, I was right, it wasn't a sure thing.
E così, per farvi un esempio pratico, siamo lì che cuciniamo qualcosa, lo assaggiamo e pensiamo è delizioso, però se portiamo alla mente anche non è certo, non è sicuro, nel momento che l'andremo a presentare ai nostri familiari, loro lo assaggiano e ci iniziano a domandare ma sei sicuro che sia fatta bene, è proprio così che doveva essere? Beh, quella delusione sarà compensata dalla riflessione che abbiamo fatto su non era sicuro, non era certo che fosse delizioso.
Or if you finally get your book accepted by a publisher and they give you a big chunk of money for your new book, yes, great, finally, I've made it. This is fantastic. And then you find that all of your friends in the book club are now jealous of you and no one wants to speak to you because you're the success and they're not. Oh, I was so happy, but yeah, there are these painful consequences.
Oppure scrivi il tuo libro di successo, ti danno anche un sacco di soldi, finalmente sei felice, vai però dai tuoi amici che sono invidiosi e scopri che non sei più felice.
So if in our days, if we remember every judgment that we make, every plan that we have, if we keep remembering it's not a sure thing, it's not certain, then we create psychological space, mental space around our opinions, our judgments, our plans, and so then life is much more flexible. We experience a great quality of peace and ease, and we are able to work with life as we find it more effectively and with a greater quality of harmony. So this is a simple practice, and if it's applied, just to keep recollecting, it's not a sure thing. Or even more simply, just to when we make a judgment, oh, this is delicious, so this is awful, so this is beautiful, so this is exactly what I didn't want to happen. So a one-way practice, but the effect is similarly very liberating, brings a great deal of ease and peace and joy in our lives.
Questa riflessione sul fatto che le cose, le situazioni non siano sicure, non siano certe, ci dà spazio, ci dà agio, ci apre a un senso maggiore appunto di di benessere perché non ci fa fermare su alcune posizioni che altrimenti prenderemo. E addirittura può essere ancora di più semplificata questa riflessione su non è certo, non è sicuro, semplicemente parafrasandola con un'altra parola del tipo questo è delizioso e allora questo è bellissimo e allora quello spazio di riflessione che in inglese era so, noi abbiamo dovuto utilizzare due parole e allora no, anche allora va bene. Allora, con una sola parola abbiamo una modalità di smontare quella situazione che sembrava così fissa.
So I express my appreciation for my translator, and we've spoken for an hour now, so I feel this is enough. Yeah. So please, whatever has been useful, please take that and use it. Whatever is not useful, please leave it aside. Ewang. And Panajan Kavali will do a short synopsis for the Thai speaking community.
And สรุปที่พระคิดที่ท่านเจ้าคุณพระพุทธิวรกุลคือเป็นพระอมโรมให้แก่หมู่คณะของเราเป็นภาษาอังกฤษภาษาอิตาลีอาจารย์ท่านเริ่มต้นกับการสรุปเรื่องการพุทธปาสีมามีความสำคัญอย่างไรเพราะว่ามันเหมือนเป็นรากแก้วของวัดแต่ละที่มันไม่ได้เกิดง่ายบางทีมันใช้เวลาหลายสิบปีกว่าจะได้พัฒนาวัดจนถึงวันที่จะกำหนดเขตที่จะมีการทำสังฆกรรมให้ได้มันใช้เวลานานพอสมควรเห็นว่ากันในวัดสันตจิตารามก็มีการความรู้สึกของเราอาจจะเป็นลักษณะว่าเรามาที่นี่รู้สึกว่าดีหมดแต่มันไม่ใช่มันเป็นกระบวนการยาวนานกว่าจะได้ดีขนาดนี้คือทั้งได้ขอบคุณท่านอาจารย์ชันตปาโลแล้วก็อาจารย์ปรีชาพระกุสันติเพื่อความสำหรับการอุตสาหภาพเพียรแล้วก็หลวงพ่อชันตปาโลก็ได้ใช้ความอดทนมากหลวงพ่อมาโลรู้จักกันกับท่านตั้งแต่หลวงพ่อชันตปาโลก็เพิ่งได้บวชที่วัดอามารวดีแล้วก็ท่านอาจารย์พิชาเช่นเดียวกันก็รู้จักตั้งแต่หลายสิบปีก็ช่วงที่ท่านอาจารย์พิชาประสานสามัคคีอยู่เรื่อยๆระหว่างคณะสงฆ์ไทยแล้วก็คณะสงฆ์ชาวต่างชาติที่นี่ก็เป็นผลงานที่ใช้เวลามากแล้วก็เป็นการสิริมงคลอย่างยิ่งที่เราได้มามีส่วนในการเห็นผลงานว่าท่านอาจารย์มาพูดถึงก็แต่ก่อนก็มีท่านอาจารย์อดีตเจ้าว่าที่วัดแรกก็ประมาณ30 กว่าปีก่อนอาจารย์ธรรมวาโรคือวาริโยท่านก็อยู่วันนี้ด้วยแล้วก็หลวงพ่อชวัตหลวงพ่อก็มาพูดถึงว่าแต่ก็รู้อยู่ว่ามันไม่ใช่เรื่องที่จะสร้างอะไรขึ้นเราต้องรักษาด้วยต้องฝึกอบรมทุกคนด้วยที่จะรักษาแล้วก็ใช้ให้เป็นประโยชน์ยิ่งขึ้นไปเช่นเหมือนที่หลวงพ่อชาเคยพูดว่าการบวชพระก็ตามพิธีกรรมก็ง่ายอยู่แต่ที่จริงก็ยากที่เดียวที่จะฝึกอบรมไปเรื่อยๆให้เป็นพระสมบูรณ์พระที่เรียบร้อยเพราะฉะนั้นก็ ท่านอาจารย์อมโรได้พูดถึงว่าเพราะมนุษย์ก็เป็นงานก็เป็นกันใหญ่เป็นงานใหญ่ก็แรงการสิริมงคลโดยการรู้ด้วยกันทำฝึกเหมือนกันไม่ใช่ว่าทำง่ายๆอยู่ในสงฆ์ท่านอาจารย์อมโรจึงเองถึงหลักที่พระพุทธองค์สอนคือสารณะธรรม6ประการซึ่งเราคงรู้จักอยู่ว่ามันเป็นเรื่องการกระทำต่อกายวาจาใจในเมตตากายกรรมวจีกรรมมโนกรรมเป็น3ข้อของสารณะธรรม8ข้อถ้าเราสามารถพูดถึงว่าคนนี้เราจะใช้ได้ในชีวิตเพราะว่าเราทำครอบครัวทุกที่ทำงานด้วยทุกที่ถ้าเรามีการระลึกถึงคุณธรรมแห่งเมตตาโดยการแสดงออกทางกายทางวาจาและใจเราจะได้มีคุณธรรมในการอยู่ด้วยกันเป็นสามัคคีแล้วก็มีโอกาสมาแสดงออกทางสิ่งที่เป็นไปเพื่อความเข้าใจกันไม่ขัดแย้งกันแล้วเราที่เราอยู่ด้วยกันในหลายวัฒนธรรมอย่างพระอมรท่านพูดถึงว่ามีที่เราก็ช่วยตัวแรกไปที่ประเทศอิตาลีท่านก็มีความรู้สึกว่าที่นี่เขาแสดงออกทุกสิ่งทุกอย่างเหมือนสวรรค์ทะเลาะกันรุนแรงอะไรต่างๆแต่ที่จริงก็ชาวอิตาลีก็อธิบายว่าไม่ใช่มาทักกันอย่างนี้แหละเป็นการสร้างความสวัสดีก็มีการแสดงออกโดยอารมณ์แต่อารมณ์เป็นที่น่ารักไม่ใช่ว่าเป็นอารมณ์ที่ไม่ดีแต่การแสดงออกระหว่างวัฒนธรรมต่างๆมันต่างกันพอสมควรเช่นชาวอังกฤษของหลวงพ่ออมโรเองท่านก็ยังจำได้สมัยที่นั่งรถไฟแต่ก่อนที่อังกฤษเขาจะปิดหน้าโดยหนังสือพิมพ์ไม่ให้เห็นการแสดงออกอะไรสักอย่างเพราะว่าแต่ละคนอยากจะเหมือนหายตัวในที่ส่วนรวมของอิตาลีก็แสดงออกได้ง่ายเรื่องความดีความชั่วบอกกันได้ตรงไปตรงมาซึ่งที่นี่เราอาศัยเจตนารมณ์ที่ดีเมตตาจิตคือว่าเราหวังดีต่อกันตัวเราเป็นที่คุณธรรมที่นำสามัคคีแล้วก็มีที่สำคัญคือระหว่างการปฏิบัติเมตตาจิตกับหลักการของพุทธธรรมที่เราได้ยินการอบรมมาในงานนี้แล้วเรื่องการไม่มีตัวไม่มีตนคือเมตตาคือมันมีเกี่ยวเนื่องกันคือเมื่อไหร่ที่เราเริ่มสร้างสัญญาอารมณ์ว่าคนนี้เป็นอย่างนี้คนนั้นเป็นอย่างนี้เราก็สามารถที่จะแผ่เมตตาได้ง่ายเข้าใจกันง่ายเราไม่ควรจะปรุงแต่งเราวางแผนวางคิดอะไรแบบมั่นใจกับเราเองมากเกินไปมีความยืดหยุ่นให้เห็นอนัตตาในแต่ละคนที่มาร่วมในงานในชีวิตทั้งวัดหรือทั้งชีวิตประจำวันของญาติโยมแล้วก็สารเนียธรรมอีกประการหนึ่งคือการแบ่งปันกันก็ที่เรามีการแบ่งแยกกันแบ่งปันกันทรัพย์สินสมบัติหรือปัจจัยสี่สมรรถะหลวงพ่อมาเลยยกตัวอย่างว่าเพื่อนสาธมิกเก่าแก่สมเด็จญาณสังวรเป็นต้นกับหลวงปู่เทศก็รู้จักเคารพกันก็รูปหนึ่งก็เป็นลูกศิษย์หลวงปู่มั่นอีกรูปหนึ่งเป็นก็ลูกของคณะสงฆ์คือสังฆราชแล้วก็เจอกันในถ้ำก็มีภาพที่เป็นที่น่าประทับใจที่สมเด็จญาณสังวรแบ่งขนมของหวานให้หลวงปู่เทศนั้นเป็นเพื่อนกันกินขนมด้วยกันคือเป็นสรณธรรมควรจะระลึกถึงบ่อยการแบ่งปันกันแลกเปลี่ยนทรัพย์สินสมบัติเครื่องอาศัยเครื่องอยู่ด้วยกันแล้วก็ที่สำคัญคือศีลสมัญญาคือการตกลงกันว่าให้มีมาตรฐานอันเดียวกันผู้นำกับผู้ทำตามเช่นพ่อแม่ก็มาตรฐานเดียวกันกับลูกเป็นต้นมีกติกาเช่นเดียวกันกับในวัดแล้วก็มีกติกาคือเคารพปฏิบัติแล้วก็มีศีลธรรมศีลเสมอกันก็ตกลงกันได้ง่ายถ้าเรามีมาตรฐานอันเดียวกันจึงเป็นไปเพื่อสามัคคี แล้วก็ที่ข้อสุดท้ายของสรณธรรมคือทิฏฐิสมัญญตาคือสรุปได้ว่าความคิดเห็นหรือสิ่งต่างๆที่เราเข้าใจกันเรื่องพุทธธรรมที่สำคัญที่สุดเราก็เอามาสรุปว่ากฎแห่งอนิจจังถ้าเราสำนึกถึงบ่อยว่าทุกสิ่งทุกอย่างไม่แน่เหมือนหลวงพ่อชาได้พูดและการอยู่ด้วยกันก็ง่ายขึ้นเราไม่ได้มีความคิดเฉพาะซึ่งเหล่านี้ที่เราต้องการต้องให้มันได้ให้มันเป็นเราคิดว่ามันเป็นไปอย่างอื่นได้เหมือนกันมันไม่ชัวร์ไม่แน่เปลี่ยนได้เป็นคำสอนที่หลวงพ่อชาเน้นว่าเช่นเราก็มีการอุตสาหภาคเพียรช่วงนี้ทำงานไม่ดีที่สุดเช่นทำอาหารที่อร่อยที่สุดเป็นต้นแต่คนอื่นก็ชิมแล้วบอกนักขยันก็เราก็ต้องบอกว่าถูกแล้วมันไม่แน่ที่เราถือว่าดีที่สุดสำหรับคนอื่นอาจจะไม่ดีที่สุดเหมือนของเราถือว่าหลักแห่งไม่แน่ในชีวิตประจำวันในชีวิตส่วนรวมถ้าเราระลึกถึงเรื่องนี้เราสามารถที่จะสร้างความเป็นช่องว่างระหว่างสิ่งที่เกิดขึ้นในหมู่คณะเราอยู่ตลอดเราช่องว่างให้ทุกคนได้ปรับปรุงปรับตัวได้ปรับตัวซึ่งกันและกันกับการเป็นคนที่อาจจะแสดงออกบางสิ่งบางอย่างไม่เสมอกันแต่อยู่ด้วยกันโดยความหลากหลายแต่ความไม่เป็นสามัคคีเป็นสิ่งที่งดงามเป็นสิ่งที่เป็นไปเพื่อความเจริญยิ่งขึ้นไปในหมู่คณะของวัดสันตจิตรามของเรามีขอสรุปดังนี้ครับผม
Thank you very much, Ajahn. A little bit. I've already read in the face anyway. So.